Rachel Pringle. Okay, guys, if you're just listening to this and you're not watching the video, I need to encourage you to go to the Instagram or go to YouTube and get some of the video, because I've never seen someone look so good on Zoom right now. I've never seen this technology channel this much radiance,
Oh my God. You should see my bottom half is still in pajamas.
The magic of Zoom.
Mhm.
Thank you. Well, yeah, Rachel Pringle. Everyone check this out. Rachel's a friend of mine. She's a poet, a teacher, a retreat leader. I love your book, Wild Open.
Thank you.
I love the way that you dance with the shadow. I love the way that you work with such relatable authenticity. Thank you so much for your work. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, my love. Oh, that means the world to me. Yes. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Yeah, and I think it's interesting how super gorgeous you are, and your role and your experience in the entertainment industry as like a model and actress. And I'm just like really curious about, I want to just sort of like get you started on that. I want to like just sit at the feet and just hear how you navigate those worlds, and their relationship to your approach to spirituality and your teachings.
Mm. Oh, I love that. It makes me think of this very specific time. I think it's so poignant too, because I was up in my office the other day and I found like my old acting journals that I haven't looked at in like over 10 years. And I remember being in class and one of my early on teachers was asking everyone, like, why do you want to be an actor? And a lot of people's response was, I want to be famous. I remember the girl I was working with, she was like, it's all about my ego. And I remember feeling a little bit like sort of out of the cool group, because my desire really from the beginning was, I'll never forget saying it. It was like, I want to know all the different realms of my psyche. And acting created at that time, before I was like as deeply thrust into this world as I am now, it was this safe container for me to explore all of the different realms, like especially the darker realms. I was always like really intrigued to by like darker characters, because there is this sort of container set with a director and a coach and other, characters that allow you to safely like explore really sort of taboo topics, emotions, feelings. And that was really my intention getting into it from the beginning. I think especially as like I'm thinking about it now, the way that I was as a child, I was very like happy, the nice girl, the good girl. And so I didn't really have an avenue to play out those taboo topics, and acting was like so refreshing for me to like get in there and be like a crazy bitch or a psycho or whatever it was in a safe container. That was really like my reasoning for getting into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you do that in your work
Yeah.
today. So I see like the way that you stretch like what is conventional, and you don't tear at it, and you don't throw like nuclear bombs at it. You stretch into it,
Mm.
and
Yes.
so I see the way that your actual role and presence, like as a member of the community and as a leader in the community. I see you bridging
Mm.
communities.
I hope to do that. I think, like that journey from acting. And again, it's so interesting, like rereading these journals and coming back to this time where, my desires have changed, and really teaching is at the forefront. I still love acting. I still love creating. That is so much a part of me. But the teaching is really like to be in those containers and help normalize these these darker realms. And I think dark can be misconstrued as something that's like evil or bad. It's just the things that are more in the shadow, specifically like our emotions. You know, it is for so many of us taboo to be angry or to touch our rage or to touch our sexuality, that in a lot of the world is considered dark or bad or evil. Or, and so my deepest desire is to really like normalize it, to normalize, you know, whenever working with, you know, a client or like couples as well, it's like, oh, everything that we're feeling is actually totally normal. It's society's picture perfect expression that makes us feel like what we're thinking or feeling is wrong, when in actuality, we're all having the same thoughts. And that was really why I got into this work in the first place. It's like, if I'm feeling this way, then it's very likely someone else is feeling this way. And if I can, you know, perhaps give words to it, I can help bring someone over into a more sort of expressed version of themselves. And I'm just thinking, I watched this interesting movie last night. And there was this scene and they're talking about finding your voice, right? And my desire is to help people find their own unique voice. And it's like, the character specifically talks about like finding your voice is feeling all the feelings and your own translation of what that is into reality, right? That's why everyone's voice is so unique. That's why all of this, you know, we're in this day and age where there's so many people doing this work and it's so incredible. And it's different from, I think, when you and I started, when there was like a handful of people, and everyone has their own unique voice. And that's my desire in the work, is like everything they're feeling is okay. Let's actualize it through your body so that you can stop living in your own shame bubble that has been created by societal's impossible standards, which no one in society can even live up to, you know? So it's like bridging a gap for everyone. We all need that.
Yeah. And you bring up such a good point. None of us can live up to these idealized standards that we don't even necessarily fully agree with.
Yeah.
You know, we may agree in some ways with like a core original truth to why we as a society or a species started to do things in certain ways. Yeah. It may have come from a very honest unfoldment from something super necessary, but we may not agree with how it's presented, interpreted, and how it positions us and itself in our world today, in our actual world today. Yeah. You know, one of the great examples of questioning something that we may have an agreement with a core teaching, but not its expression, is monogamy.
Yes.
The idea also of, you know, like the biblical renunciation of same-sex relationships. Those two things were specifically in the context of what was happening historically, and medically, and systematically within a community where there were men who were getting women pregnant, and then there wasn't like a sense of direct responsibility, and so they wanted a tethering, they wanted a commitment. Monogamy, great, understand where it came from. There was also another cultural context where they're talking about, you know, how they're not having enough, their numbers are dwindling. So they're like, look, you're going to be getting off, you better be making babies. You know? You know, and there's like these historical narratives and contexts where we've basically said, okay, well, I guess I could see that or whatever. Some people may still be like, that's bullshit, whatever. But it's like when you're in that open-minded space, you're saying, okay, maybe I could see where it came from and its value, and I can see its value in the world today, and I can see its role in the world today. But rather than forcing all of us to have the exact same agreements and forcing ourselves to self-comply with standards that are already taken there, versus exploring our own relationships to these concepts, you know.
I completely agree.
You know,
I think it's
that.
Go ahead.
Tell me about how you work with that, because I see it so much in your art and in your curriculum.
Yeah.
you know.
Well, I think I love the way that you express that, because that's really how I feel. And like, to go super like meta and esoteric, like I believe in past lives. I believe that very likely we were the people who made those agreements and who thought it was a great idea to make money the way it is, to make, marriage and property and all of those things, like, or going to school in this sort of like systematic way. Like we were like, oh, this is a great idea. And then somewhere along the line, we get stuck into this habit, and we lose focus on curiosity and discovery. And I think that that's sort of a play on what we're experiencing all the time, right? Is this balance between, or this dynamic and polarity between, like rigidity and fluidity. And it's like, we found a system that works. And so we want to like work that system over and over again. And especially because the human psyche, like when we find something that's comfortable, there is this period, this moment of real deep discomfort when we're trying something new, which is why most of us reject it, right? And I like to work specifically with that energy. I think that if we work with that, which is like sort of exactly the bridge, the in-between stage, that's when we're putting ourselves in a space of consistent evolution, because some systems do work for some people. And if we get stuck in that and we don't actually exercise the part of us that does feel nervous or uncomfortable or fearful or terrified about taking on a new role, whatever it may be, like a new job role, a new relationship role, moving somewhere, changing direction, changing even like your own direction as a teacher, whatever it is. If we lose that, we move into like this monotonous, really, I think from my perspective, like slowed down, even dumbed down version of us, because we're not exercising the part of us that's meant to constantly evolve. I think that specifically shows us in relationships. And that's also mirrored in sort of the body conversation, like all of these. And it's incredible, all the hacks, but there's still an aspect of people trying to give an overshadowing, like it's going to work for everyone, when that's never going to be the case. Like, and that is, if we can lean more into that and realize that that's a superpower, and that we are unique and we're meant to be unique, and that every body is different, every body, every channel, every voice, every system, and to like let go of these identities that we want to put ourselves into. And I know that for myself. I did that as well. Like I remember when I first wrote my book, it was like, oh my God, I'm a poet now. And I wanted to eliminate all these other things and just be this, because it was so enlivening. And even that is a trap, right? Like instead of just seeing it as a gateway, everything is just a gateway into the next phase, into the next stage. And can we be dynamic enough, like in relationship to our surroundings, to give ourselves permission to constantly change?
Love that. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing where it's like once we have that base level of realization that all things are in constant change, that foundational Buddhist principle of impermanence.
Yeah.
Say like, no, impermanence. That's why I think some of these religious structures are really valuable, because you learn something like impermanence is a thing.
Yes.
Like that's why I love religion and world religion,
Yeah.
But something you said that stood out to me a lot was this idea of the monotony versus, I think, like harmony, because the monotony is like we're all one tone. Monotone is like a musical word. And harmony is also a musical word, and harmony is when different things are happening, but it hits just right,
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Like
and you feel it.
Leave, but it's like, it's actually hitting.
Yes. Yeah. I completely, I think, and what that tunes me into is like, we're seeking aliveness, right? I believe that that's really why we come here, right? Is to experience being alive, right? To get out of the monotony of of omnipresence that is bliss all the time, it's like, cool, I want to break. I want to experience myself aliveness. It's like you listen to a piece of music that is in harmony. It's going to make you feel all of these different emotions, right? It's going to send you on a roller coaster. And I'm thinking about like going to a concert that is playing the same tone over and over again. What happens is you get bored, you check out, you're not in your body any longer, and you're just following the rhythm of everyone around you. And it could be nice for a short period of time, but after that, I'm thinking about the highest expression of that, it becomes torture. If you're like, oh, you love a song, but if you listen to that song over and over and over and over and over again, it would slowly kill you.
Yeah.
Right.
But then what happens after it's torture? You don't even hear it anymore.
Yeah.
You don't even hear it anymore. And so then you're behaving in this, you're like totally doing the entire choreography to this entire song that first you loved. Well, first you didn't know, then you loved, then you hated, and now you don't even know it anymore. And it's like top evangelist. You're the one that's like the leading the charge. Terence McKenna says, what does he say? He calls them self-appointed guardians of the status quo. We become self-appointed guardians of the status quo. And we start to, before we even know it, we're like operating entirely on someone else's worldview. And some of those things may cause us to do good things. Some of those may not be bad, but they're unexamined.
Yeah. Yes.
They remain unexamined.
Yeah. And I think and there's a comfort level in that, right? It's comfortable in a way to find a groove that works. And if we give ourselves completely over to that, we lose this like what I like to energetically feel like belly to belly expression of meeting our life, right? We're just sort of, and people are like, that's what COVID taught us in a way. Everyone saw how monotonous you're like, you get in a car, you go to the thing, you do the thing, you come home, you da-da-da-da. And it's like this groove, and people like it's like slow. It's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. You don't think it's happening. You're like, oh, I'm pretty good. But in actually like underneath the surface, you're like slowly dying because you're not working that muscle that is in actuality a bit scary. There's like I believe that one of the most important things that we can ever do in our lifetime is learn how to be uncomfortable, right? When we can learn how to, it's still going to be uncomfortable. It's never not going to be that, but you become familiar with the discomfort and the pattern that happens, like, ooh, okay, I'm uncomfortable, which means something's changing, which means I'm about to, like be squeezed through this like black hole and then popped out into a next iteration of me. And like I said, it's always uncomfortable. It's always terrifying. It's always petrifying. I'm experiencing that now as I change forms and get ready to like move more over to Europe. I'm aware of those emotions that are like, am I okay? I'm not safe. What's going to happen? I don't know. And again, our society has programmed in us from such a young age to be afraid of the dark. That is like a universal like line from our childhood. There are monsters in the dark. The dark isn't safe. We don't know what's there, versus teaching us, like Joe Dispenza style, to get excited about sort of the darker realms, or should I say like the void, the blackness, the abyss, because that actually represents infinite possibilities. You don't know what's there, not in a bad way, in a fucking exhilarating, ecstatic way. Like there's something that's out there that you haven't even thought of that could really expand you and ignite you in a way like never before.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what Deepak Chopra also teaches. He says, trust the unknown because the unknown is God.
Yes.
What would, for someone who's listening to this, who's maybe like considers themselves like when you're like in that like light worker mode, you want to spread the light, you want to help other people, as soon as we get any kind of enthusiasm about something, we have to share it. And, you know, there's that. What would you say to someone who considers themselves like called to teaching, called to healing, holding space, that kind of thing? What do you think is like the most crucial thing in sort of like following in those footsteps and those paths?
I think the most crucial thing is to really learn how to do that for yourself, because there is no better subject than you, because it's a visceral knowing and feeling, and to really sit with yourself in it, like, and dare I say, like, put yourself in a bunch of different scenarios so you can feel what it feels like. So, you know, something that I say all the time when I'm teaching is like, I'm not afraid of other people's darkness now because I have sat with mine, right? And it's no longer terrifying or petrifying. It's fascinating and interesting because it equates to, I agree with you completely, God, right? It is an expression of divinity and in all of its different facets. And so for those of us, because I'm the same way, like I'm a 3/5 human design manifesting generator. When I learn something, I'm like, everyone, this is what's going on. And that's wonderful. And I think it's necessary because a lot of us learn by sharing and learn by teaching, and to never let that connection with yourself slip. I believe that's the most important thing. And in terms of really wanting to spread that message, you know, people can feel when that's present in you. They can feel, like, we can energetically feel when we're sitting with someone who's comfortable with all parts of themselves, or is willing to look, or is willing to be in their own darkness, to be present with their own pain, to be uncomfortable, to be called out on their blind spots. Like, we can energetically feel that, and something in us relax, which makes us more susceptible to growth and expansion.
Yeah, that reminds me of something that Marianne Williamson, her famous quote,
Yes.
our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate, our deepest fear that we're powerful beyond measure.
Fuck yeah. Love that quote so much. My God.
You know what, what I've noticed about you, and what I've learned just from like being in community with you and experiencing your presence and the way you communicate, is I feel like what I can say, the like endorsement I can give, you know, to use that word, is that what you offer is deeply, deeply authentic. It's like it's the real thing, you know, it's a real Louis, you know what I mean? Or whatever. You know? It's like, it's not a replica. It's not from something else. It's not a counterfeit product. It's not a fake. What you offer is really, it's the full experience, and it's very authentic. And I think that the way that you relate to your poetry and the sensualness that you experience life with, and the way that you infuse that into what you create, anyone who's listening who might be interested in this, you offer different kinds of retreats and things like that all the time. So go check out her links in the show. But I can say that it'll be very rich, and whatever it is, it'll be very refined, almost like going to like a Michelin star restaurant. It's like that kind of authenticity. It's like the real couture. It's not like the word couture silk screened on the back of something. It's like handmade for you, because I know that the way you work in your groups, you're so intuitive. You tune into every member of that group. I just remember like your birthday party, the dozens of times we've been at your place, all the different times that we've hung out, where there was lots of people, evening, morning, first thing in the morning, all the different times. But you're not a people pleaser. So you're not like going around people pleasing, but you hold like such a presence that's very much your own refinement, and also you hold like a space that allows for a lot of relaxed authenticity.
Mm,
And what you introduce into it is always gourmet, always couture,
yes.
always A-list, always, you know, what you serve an environment is A-list, you know. So
Thank you,
I just
babe.
wanted to like throw that endorsement out there, because you know, I'm just, as you're talking, all these moments that we've had together are coming up, the way you've communicated to me about things that I was going through,
Mm,
the way you recognized challenges while being really respectful to all parties involved. You know, I feel like you really show up, and you're really, really just like 5 stars.
thank you, my love. You know, I appreciate it. You know, it's like I'm really fascinated by the fullness of our experience. You know, I want to like belly to belly meet the divine. And I think that like the more open we are and willing to receive the moment, the more we're informed, you know, and like I think through acting and through this work, you know, and through modeling, especially, like I've really realized that the surface really does not matter. You know, what matters is what the inner workings that are happening underneath. That's when it gets really interesting. And specifically with myself, like because I used to be a people pleaser and I used to try to attain a level of perfection in order to get a modeling job or book a role or whatever it was. And that left me in such turmoil, and it left me disconnected from life. And once I got you know, like the feeling of being connected to life, I was like, oh, I want to be connected to life. I want to be connected to everything in life, because then I'm actually really fulfilled from in my soul, not just from a materialistic world, which again, we think is going to make us happy, but actually makes us like deeply dissatisfied and unsatiated. And like you said, I want like a Michelin star, really comfortable Michelin star restaurant, really comfortable couture dress. Yeah. Like where you can see all the details, and it's like fascinating and delicious and delectable and decadent, and is like a full blown, like rich life experience.
Yeah, you know, one of the ways I would describe you that I didn't say yet, yes, Michelin star restaurant. I love the comfortable thing. The thing that I didn't say was like super comfortable, top tier med spa.
Yes. Love it. Yes. Love a
That,
spa.
yeah, because you know, it's so interesting. Like we have, like, hear me out on this, audience, you know, like we have this tendency to feel like we shouldn't be feeling good.
Yeah. Oh,
That
yes.
feeling good or being well
Hmm.
is like not allowed, because there are other moments that other people are in, or that we're in, where the world is really serious. And it makes sense, because we should be putting energy into supporting people and helping people,
Hmm.
just like we're only here today because other people have put energy into supporting and helping us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes to all of that times 10,000, yes to that before anything else, right?
Yeah.
And if we're if we're thinking about living beings, like, you're the one that you're around the most. Like, take care of that one. Make sure, you know, that's something that I always have to remind myself. I grew up in a
Hmm.
big family, and it was like I was always in the shuffle of like all the big brothers are doing this and all the little brothers are doing that. And, you know, and I was the middle kid, so I was with the big brothers and the little brothers. So I was always, someone else was choosing my schedule all the time,
Mm.
always shuffled around. And we were, you know, part of this really religious family, and we were in like the priesthood and doing all these like initiations and events and temple rituals. And so like normal busy family life on top of like living in basically like an occult secret society, like super involved in this like religion, you know. And I have to learn how
Yeah.
to take better care of myself.
Yeah.
I have to
Yeah.
learn that basic level of, that's why the med spa needs to be in the conversation. And that's why in the ancient traditions, I mean, the oldest religious tradition in the world is the Vedic lineage, the Vedic traditions. And Ayurveda has so much about taking excellent care of the physical body.
Yeah, I mean, I so agree with you. And I think that it really goes back to what you first said, which is it's ingrained and programmed and conditioned into us that it's not okay to feel good. And if you are, then you're ignoring what's happening in the world. And I forget who says this, but it's like, I always resonated deeply with this, which is you can't help someone who's sick by becoming sick.
Right.
You can't help someone who is poor by becoming poor. You help by bringing over your energy to help them get better. Exactly like you said, we're meant to be of service. I think that being of service in the world is one of the most fulfilling things in the world that we can ever experience. And we can never truly be of service in our fullest capacity without first serving ourselves. And that it's really challenging because we're all like, I'll never forget being called selfish at a very young age. And I carried that around because I was a people pleaser for most of my life. And it was like, it's only now in my like 30s that I'm starting to realize if I don't take care of myself, especially now that we're doing this work in such a big way, I can't give in the same way. And to battle that and to really like be, dare I say, like a little bit cutthroat about our self-care. Like I would say that, thank you for saying that. Most of my friends would say that like, I'm the self-care queen because I know that I give so much and it is like the way of my being. And if I reach empty, I'm just like, I'm down and out. And so it's really been like, okay, making sure I just said this to Johan, like now that we're in this new stage and things are developing in a new way, it's like, okay, we need to now change our strategy to be even more aware of our spaciousness and time to do all those things, to eat well, to take care of our bodies, to take herbs and Chinese medicine and get acupuncture. And like, I had an acupuncture session a week and a half ago. And I was like, and I've never got, acupuncture before. And I was like, oh my God, this is unbelievable what this ancient, intelligent practice of the body has made me show up for my work in a completely different way. Right? Like seeing that correlation and seeing specifically, in the world, people who are doing it so big, who are like, won't ever allow themselves to like go get physical therapy for, they have like a knee injury and they just like struggle along. Like I can do it. I'm like, no, your vessel, your container, your body is what houses the capacity of your spirit. If we don't take care of that, the energy that you can carry will only dwindle because it literally can't hold it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That came up for me at the 5K I recently stumbled through. I was like 5K, whatever, no problem, easy.
Yeah.
I start running and like 200 yards into it, my right knee is like, nope. And I was like,
nope.
Oh, that's a real thing? Oh shit. People's knees going out is a real thing. Oh, damn.
We are at that age now. And it's funny, we just had this conversation this morning and Johan and I just made our appointments for like I'm getting my hormone panel, I'm getting all my new blood work. And it's like, it's to go even further. Like we're at that age where when you get, you can feel your knee or you can, like I've been sitting in Lotus for 10 years. And just recently, my knee was like, honey, no more. And now I have to sit in Hero and Seiza style. And like, it was so fascinating to see the part of me that was attached to sitting in Lotus to be like, ooh, what does this mean about me and my spiritual practice? Like if I can't, and you're like, what, where does that come from? And do I have the willingness to make that adjustment in order to like protect the well-being of my knee, which is a like integral part of the functioning of your whole body. It's like, I think it's I don't remember who said it. I think it was Iyengar who was like, you only have one set of knees, and like that is the most important. Same with your lower back, right? We're feeling that as we get older, and that's just a sign of like our kidneys and our liver, and like how important it is to take care of these things, and to recognize that this is a system running itself.
Right. Oh man, are you calling me out on purpose right now?
We're calling each other out, babe. We're calling each other out. It's like, this is the time, man. And I have resistance.
You don't have nearly as much resistance as like as you think you do.
Yeah.
You're very empowered in those ways. I had something that came up when you were talking about the knee. It's like the knee, the body is for embodying the experience.
Yeah.
And it is the vessel through which that experience happens. And then the lotus position, the asana, is for the body. The body is not for the asana. And so when the asana isn't appropriate for the body, it loses its value.
Yeah.
So a beginner on both ends, someone who's been practicing with lotus for years, whose body can't do it anymore, or can't do it as long anymore, or it's not as comfortable anymore, that end of the spectrum, and the very new beginner who can't even get into lotus.
Yeah.
Those two people are in the same place where the practice transcends that specific need.
Yeah.
It's like the whole point in Jesus where he performed a miracle, but it was the Sabbath. And so they were like, bro, you're a healer. You can't heal on Sunday. On the Sabbath. It's against the law. No working on the Sabbath. You're a healer. You can't heal on the Sabbath. And it's Jesus. So it's kind of like one of the big voices of human religion. He said, roughly translated, he said, bro, give me a break. The Sabbath is created so we can take it easy.
Yeah.
I wasn't created to obey the Sabbath.
Yeah.
The Sabbath is a gift for me to do what I want to do on that day. It's not so I can do what you think I should and shouldn't do on the Sabbath, And so it's like remembering that all these outside tools are for us. We're not for them.
Yes. Oh my God.
So that comes up a lot, and people are like, am I meditating right? I don't think I'm doing it right. It didn't work.
Yeah.
You'd be amazed how many people say it didn't work. I'm like, because you didn't have like a transcendental experience. That's what you mean? Because you didn't have like a divine spontaneous enlightenment experience.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have like a third eyegasm, it didn't work. No, it's a training tool. These are all tools.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think that it's only a good thing that you're even thinking about whether you can do lotus.
Yeah. It's so true, because I think that goes back to what we were saying before, is like, all of these things that we sort of agreed upon at a certain time, like they are all really amazing and they're all these incredible tools. But the moment that it becomes rigid, like in rigidity, then we're losing like the core purpose of life, which is to evolve. Consciousness is only meant to do that. It's literally designed for that. And so do we have the willingness to listen to what's being asked of us? And like that, I think that is actually the highest superpower, is to be attuned enough to go with that inner guidance, right? Like that all of these incredible religions have these higher parts. And then all of a sudden it's like, unless you act in this certain way, you miss the mark. But we're all so unique. Like
Right.
we can't ever be using the same things at the same time. Like it's going to change. And do we have the willingness to like put down our ego and let ourselves change? Yeah.
And it's so hard to be brand new at something.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, that's what I love about Buddhism. They're like, okay, so there's something called a beginner's mind. You're much better off with it.
Yeah.
You know?
Forever.
Forever. Yeah. Like that's the entire statement, you
Yeah.
know, like you're much better off with it all the time, experiencing the beginner's mind.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you go into a place and you're like, okay, I'm a beginner, you know, I remember the first time I learned to shoot a gun. I was like raised in Ohio and I was a Boy Scout. So the first time I learned to shoot a gun was we learned all the gun safety stuff. We did this whole training and everything, how to load and unload, how to clean, how to be all this safety training. And, you know, we get to the point where I'm about to shoot my first gun ever. And it's all safe. We're all standing behind the line. There's a target. Everyone knows what we're doing. We all have an agreement, and it's a religious group. So we're also praying that everyone's going to be very safe. And so it's like as safe as it gets, right? But but I had no need or desire to pretend I already knew what I was doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
they told me exactly how to aim, how to point. They told me exactly how to do everything. And that was a time when I did not, it was so serious. It was like, there are guns here. Someone could get hurt, be extra, extra safe. And
Yeah.
so I had no ego in it.
Yeah.
Some people were like trying to be cool or whatever, but none of us really had any ego in it because we were trying to like learn
Yeah.
something we did not know, you know? And so I
Yeah.
always go back to that. It's like going to, if I could have that when I engage in anything that's going on, you know, you might learn something, you know, with
Well,
the
I think
beginner's mind.
that's the thing that's so interesting because as a child, that's so present for us, right? You're constantly learning new things, and it's such a part of our day-to-day life, and everyone around us is supporting that learning. Great job, you know, keep going, you got this. And then at some point in this like imaginary timeline, we lose that, and it becomes really uncomfortable to not know exactly what you're doing. Like you graduate to being an adult, and there's this like overshadowing thing that's like, you must know exactly what it is that you're doing, when in reality, we're literally the same as we were then. And I just wrote about this yesterday, you know, confidence is built when we learn something new. And if like, that's why as adults, we kind of get in this stagnation, this monotonous zone, because we've lost that desire to be uncomfortable, to look a little silly or a little stupid along the way, when in actuality, that's what keeps you growing and keeps you fresh. It's like, it's really adopting like that childlike mindset and like, yeah, let's be beginners all together, you know, and like, that seems way more fun.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Kids have so much more fun.
Yes.
They have so much more fun, and they don't know shit, and they don't care.
Yeah.
They call it like they see it. They apologize. They care about how they make other people feel, and they enjoy the whole fucking thing, you know.
Yeah.
They can go from crying to laughing. They're like, "Ow, that really sucks. You did that." Okay. You know, they don't always, not everyone does, you know, but you can see that.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
and like
Absolutely.
that quality never actually is not there. It's just all the other things get like packed onto it.
Yeah.
Do you have any like specific practices? Like I'll work with like ayahuasca. I take 2 groups to Costa Rica to Rhythmia to do plant medicine twice a year. So that's like one of the ways that I like purge. I'm like clearing. And do you have any like particular shadow work practices that you do for any kind of that are particular? I read in Vogue that you do primal scream. Is that right?
Yeah, well, you know, I do pyramid breath every single day. And so that practice, you know, speaking of everything we just talked about, is really sort of designed for that. It's specifically designed to be fluid, flexible, to change in direct relationship to you. And it involves what I like to call like the Holy Trinity: body, breath, voice. So every day I'm screaming and moving and clearing whatever it is. Now, there will be days where it's more intense dependent on what's in my field, so, but I have that practice has and continues to be the most profound because I do it every single day. So I'm exercising that thing out of my system. Now, if I need to go deeper, I'll integrate that and I'll go into more like, I'm dancing out archetypes and I'll just go deeper on my own for a couple hours, and it'll likely lead to pleasure and pleasure practice. But doing that daily is like, I turn into a little kid every day of being like, shaking it out, moving it out, breathing into the body, and sort of really like teaming up everything we've spoken about today, like attuning to what I need in the moment, giving myself, the permission to be wild and weird, to be uncomfortable, to look silly, to look stupid, to exercise, to purge, to clean out my vessel and my channel. And that I really, specifically for Johan and I, it's like one of the foundations of our lives and our relationship, because it's like, we're cleaning our teeth every day, but the breath work is cleaning our vessel. So it's like, I really think that, and I like the fact that it's not rigid. It's weird. It's funky. It's playful. You get to be all of yourself in it. I mean, you've sat in sadhana with us multiple times, and it's a fucking blast.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a total blast, and it is weird and playful and free, but also it's very effective. It's like there's something that you sometimes hear in like the Western esoteric systems is magical hygiene.
Yes.
Like a really, really good example of like a magical hygiene practice.
Yeah.
So I've been to your house for morning pyramid breath sadhana practice. And I always, we definitely get the energy moving through each of the channels specifically. So some of it I'm like definitely internally guiding, but it's guided. It's definitely guided. So if you're not already going to go there, you go there,
Yeah.
There's the buildup of the breath. And then there are like these occasional like releases where, sometimes it's like a physical movement. Sometimes it's an emphasis on like the mouth, lips, tongue, voice, throat, jaw with like gibberish. And I have to say, just from, I do a lot of energy work. I have energy work training in groups that I lead through, energy work also. So in the plant medicine work and the energy medicine work, I can see how my experience with the pyramid breath with you guys, with you and Johan, was opening up all the energy meridians in the body, bringing the mind and body into intimacy, like belly to belly, mind and body, touching all the different, sort of like opening up all the different sides of the self. And I feel like I'm really, really me. I feel like the parts of me that hide because of a defense mechanism feel safe to come out.
Yes.
And the parts of me that are doing that performative hiding, that are those parts of me that creep up, that are not really me, those are like de-emphasized in my own experience. And the parts of me that are more authentic are re-emphasized. Yeah. And so I loved it. I love doing that with you guys.
Yeah.
Me and Sadie are doing that every day.
I know. Well, you just got to come up and practice. Yeah, I mean, right, we had that little, those couple of months, that little sweet spot was like fucking amazing.
That was incredible. That was so good. Well, this has been amazing. Anything that you're promoting or anything that you got coming up? that we should know
We
about?
have our pyramid breath teacher training that's coming up, and it starts February 18th. We'll keep the launch open till about the end of February. And we're super excited. 7 weeks. It's going to be incredible. Everything you heard, a deep dive into ourselves, and we're absolutely stoked. And then I have retreats coming up, and yeah, check out the website. There's lots of things. There's instant courses, and we're both Johan and I are making the journey into doing more smaller group, deep intimacy work. That's really our desire now, is to teach the tools that have made our lives so rich in a more intimate setting, which is new for me because usually I'm like bigger groups, but I'm excited for that. As you know, I'm letting the tides change me as they do. So yeah, like looking forward to whoever's listening to meeting in whatever configuration that is. And let's continue to evolve together. And such a pleasure and joy to be here with you always, my love.
Yeah, you're amazing. Can't wait to see you. And maybe I'll do the pyramid breathwork teacher training.
Yeah! Let's do it.
I love it. I mean, I could just really use the practice, to be honest. Yeah. And when I got my first yoga teacher training, I discovered trainings when I was in high school. And I was like, that's what I need to do. I did like a Reiki training. I did a hypnotherapy training, did a meditation teacher training, did a yoga teacher training. And it was like, that was how I actually made any big change in my life, was like really trusting someone, entering into community, and like completing like an initiation and going
absolutely
through the whole initiation. So I mean,
I think it's like when I did my first yoga teacher training, I think I love what you said, because it's so crucial when part of you knows that you want to make a change, but you can't quite get there. A training provides you with the accountability that you want, but you can't necessarily give to yourself yet. Like that was such a huge transition. I was 23 when I did it, and I was like really transitioning from like my partying days into that. And it was like, I just had like a built-in excuse, and then a built-in community that would support me in that. And then the accountability of like, okay, I want to complete this, so I am going to practice every day. And that just like, it works itself. That's the reason why we're doing it, is because the community aspect is so important. Like we need the like-minded people who are going through a same journey as you, and then you feel not alone, and then everything is possible.
And what's better than that?
Amen.
What's better than that? You do a really good job of holding that community space. And I know that this is going to be a really good thing for a lot of people. We're in such an interesting time in the world where people are learning this quickly, these techniques online, and being able to become facilitators with this level of some kind of offering to people. And it's so huge. Mental health is so huge. Doing these things that are going to release anxiety and depression and help us just show up better for our families. Like, this is so important. And I do lead breathwork, different techniques, not the pyramid breathwork. So different techniques, but the meditation and breathwork and energy healing, all the stuff that I do, it's all about trying to hold a space for someone to get through a hard time, to find that breakthrough. And those really, really hard times are what change the game for people. Yeah. Those times when they've lost a loved one, like our friends, recently lost a mother, when they lose a job, when they end a relationship. These are huge transitions in our little tiny short human lives. And becoming a breathwork instructor or doing other teacher trainings like this one, this one's available now, doing those kinds of things is putting yourself in a situation to actually walk with people through those hard times and letting it be something that like helps catapult them to a better situation in their lives.
Yes.
leveraging the transition for something good and something better. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I've definitely experienced this technique, and it totally works. It's funny, like the simplest things
Yeah.
done just right are the things that make the biggest difference, you know? And it's like you have to learn to do them. You have to get into the habit of doing them just right,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And then you have to continue living your normal life,
Mm-hmm.
slowly integrating, into it, So
Yes.
so it's simple, it's a simple technique. It's not anything that's like super weird, but maybe I'm the wrong one to say anything. Maybe it is totally weird. I don't know. I might be a bad judge of that. But it's something totally, I think if anyone's listening and they're into it, I definitely think it's legit and recommend
Yeah.
it. And have seen so many people,
Mm-hmm.
including myself, just have like such a great experience from it. And it's so fun.
Yeah.
And it's like you get a real release from it. It's like such good,
Yes.
it's such good
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. Amen. A fucking man.
Hey, fucking men. Okay, well, more to come. I'd love to see you again here. I'd love
Yes.
to do this with
I
you
would
again.
love that. More and more. Thank you so much, my love. Such a pleasure. I love you.
Yeah, I love you too. Thank you.